A political battle looms in Turkey as the ruling party unveils a package of controversial constitutional amendments. The AK party says the changes are needed to curb powers of the military and the judiciary. Just how will the party push through its new amendments, and at what price? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Huda Abdelhamid. Turkey is stepping up its bid to enter the European Union. The Turkish government has proposed constitutional changes that it says will bring Turkey in line with Europe, politically and economically. It suggested some of the changes could be enacted just 30 days after they passed into law. But critics say the government has ulterior motives. They say the moves are more about curbing the role of the judiciary and cementing the ruling party's power domestically than helping the country get into Europe. The ruling AK party's proposal include more than 20 constitutional amendments, but the big ones causing the controversy include proposals for the complete restructuring of the Supreme Board of Judges and Prosecutors, known as HSYK. This would open the possibility for the Supreme Board members to be investigated for alleged wrongdoings. And both the Supreme Board and the Constitutional Court members would increase in numbers. The majority would be appointed by the President and a small number by the Parliament. The proposals also protect political parties by creating a parliamentary commission to review and investigate proposed political party closures. The Constitutional Court will require a two-thirds majority to dissolve parties, and remarks made during public discussions would no longer be able to be used to call for a party to be closed. The Deputy Prime Minister defended the constitutional changes, saying, "We're not making these changes to strengthen our power. We want to strengthen the power and sovereignty of the people." Well, joining us today to discuss this further from Ankara, Cüneyt Yüksel, Vice President of the Political and Legal Affairs of the AK Party. Also in Ankara, Yusuf Kanli, Editor-in-Chief of the Turkish Daily News. And in London, Fadi Hakura, a Turkish affairs expert in the European program at Chatham House. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Cüneyt Yüksel, let me just start with you. How do you intend to pass these constitutional amendments amid this atmosphere of suspicion and controversy?
Thank you very much. Good evening to everyone. As you said, actually, in your introduction, I think it's a big step in democratic reforms towards full membership of the European Union, this constitutional amendment package. And I think, due to Turkey's unique political development, the Republic of Turkey never had a constitution that was adapted as the product of debates and compromise of a constituent assembly or free debate. So now we think that now Turkey needs these constitutional amendments to enrich its democratization process, because Turkey is not the same as 30 years ago. As you know, we have 82 constitution, which was made with the tutelage of the military intervention, after military intervention. Although we made several changes, amendments, also you mentioned that just our party made 27 articles amendment since 2002. Before that, there were some amendments. 15 times, actually, we changed our constitution. We had major amendments in 1995, 2001. But now we think that this constitution does not carry Turkey forward to more democracy, deepening democracy, and also for the full membership of the European Union. So that's why we decided to bring this constitutional amendment to the parliament, which is the representative of Turkish people. And of course, our goal is to have broader consensus in Turkey to have this amendments or these changes. We know that this changes, or any change actually in a country, is not easy throughout the world. When you see, when the people are making changes, it's always difficult. There are always debates, lively debates, but we think that it is now time for Turkey to make this debate and make these changes.
Okay,
so
let me
that's
just
why
bring
we
Yusuf
introduce
Kanli
now
into this conversation. It seems to me that a lot of people in Turkey would agree that constitutional amendments are required. So why is this proposal causing such a controversy here?
First of all, AK Party is not seeking consensus. AK Party is acting in a majoritarian obsession and trying to impose its view on the nation and on others. I mean, in this thing, AK Party is not going to people to discuss what changes to be done. Instead, they are coming with a text which is already done, and they are asking people to join in. This is not consensus seeking. AK Party is acting typical AK Party way. That is, we have the parliamentary majority. We represent the people. Therefore, we represent the national will. We do our way, and that's okay. But that's not democracy. This is typical AK Party style, which is anti-democratic. They are just trying to impose their own view on others. I mean, is Turkish? Of course, there is need for a constitutional amendment. Of course, there is need even for a new constitution for Turkey. But the way to do it is not one party imposing its view on others, but instead a parliamentary reconciliation commission, as we did with all previous amendments, should work on a package and produce a package.
Okay, Fadi Hakura, is this a case where people are actually pondering over this package of amendments that has been put forward, or are we still in that in a position where people are locked into their own positions? On one side, you have, let's say, the state, the seculars. On the other side, you have a ruling party which has been accused more than once of trying to put forward a, let's say, a conservative or a religious agenda up.
The political atmosphere in Turkey now is quite poisonous. I think it's not the correct atmosphere to pursue any kind of extensive constitutional reform package right now in Turkey. Turkey is around 1 year away from an election, so now is not really the best time. A good example of where the government did pursue constitutional reform and generated consensus was the years 2002 to 2004. In those 2 years, the Turkish government, the AK Party government, conducted radical changes, reduced the power of the military, brought in more freedoms, more democracy, more reforms, and it was voted in by the major opposition party, the CHP, or the Republican People's Party. But now we see a complete disintegration of the process, a lot of poison, a poisonous atmosphere. So perhaps now is maybe not the right time to proceed and to do so after the next election, when the next government, whatever it may be, will have a mandate to proceed.
Okay, well, Cüneyt Yüksel, considering this poisonous atmosphere that everyone is talking about, now how are you intending to pass this package of amendments? You need to have a majority in Parliament, and for that you will need to have to bring on board some other political parties. How do you intend to convince them?
Now, of course, I mean, I don't agree with our guests because, in Turkey, we are asking for the broader consensus. We are asking to every political parties, every non-governmental organizations for the constitutional debate. We are, still asking them to bring their own ideas. In fact, in the past, very recently, actually, we even asked, opposition parties to bring their own draft so we can discuss it. We can discuss amendments or a new civilian constitution based on their draft. But, they never did that. They did not bring any of the drafts. They did not bring any ideas to the table. We say that, politics is to solve or to find solution to social problems, to countries' problems. But here we see politicians, saying that it is now not time. It is, the parliament cannot do these changes, and we don't agree because we say that, time, we cannot extend time. We cannot wait. Turkey's problem cannot wait. This constitutional
but here it's not a matter
amendments.
of time. There's a structural problem here.
Let me finish it. Please let me finish it. So that's why we ask these amendments. But when we prepare this package, these amendments, actually we took into consideration in a broader sense. We looked at actually different drafts. For example, we know there is 92 draft of TÜSİAD, 93. In 93, the parliament speaker asked political parties in the parliament to have their own drafts, and we have all this in our archives. In 2000, TOB had their own draft. In 2001, the Bar Association, Turkish Bar Association had a draft. In the past, there were amendments. So now we don't understand why this time, they are trying to oppose this kind of amendments when, in fact, every major political parties, every non-governmental organizations are saying that, Turkey needs constitutional amendments. That's why, here I strongly urge all the political parties, all segments of society to actually contribute to this process, these amendments. And I want to also,
okay, well, let me just bring Yusuf Tanli into the conversation. You seem to disagree with what Mr. Cüneyt is saying at the moment, aren't you?
Here we have a structural problem. It is not a matter whether we need a new constitution, whether we need constitutional amendments, or whether it is the time of making these constitutional amendments. The problem is in AK Party's mentality. One is they are imposing their own view. They are not seeking consensus. Two, the amendments they are suggesting can be divided into two groups: the sugarcoating and the content, real content. The sugarcoating is, of course, lifting of the provisional Article 15, providing immunity to 1980 intervention leaders, coup leaders, or giving positive discrimination to the disabled, or recognizing collective bargaining rights for the public employed. Fine, those are the sugarcoating. But the substance is they are changing the structure of the high courts, they are changing the duties of the high courts, they are making the high courts allegiant to the government. This is against separation of powers, this is against supremacy of law. This is a clear violation of the existing constitution and all norms of law. Therefore, even if they legislate this package, and even if in a referendum, because they cannot find sufficient three-fifth majority to legislate it without referendum, even if they pass it from a referendum, which I believe if they continue, they will do it, because it's difficult to explain to the people why we are against lifting of provisional Article 15 and lifting the immunity of the coup leaders. But eventually, the Constitutional Court will annul this because it's against separation of powers, it's against the principle of supremacy of law. But, it is against, okay. Our party is just trying to usurp, besides executive and the legislative, the judicial power as well.
Okay, well, Fadi Hakura, let me just put to you this. Now, let's say this goes through a referendum. What do you think will the Turkish people answer? And second of all, if, let's say, the Turkish people agree to it, if the Constitutional Court then changes aren't we still at the same problem here in Turkey, that there's the state and then there's the rest of the country?
Well, if you look at the 1982 Constitution, which was drafted by the military, it was voted in a referendum and got over 90% support in a referendum. But still, despite the high level of support in a referendum, it lacked a lot of it lacked solid legitimacy. I suspect, given the poisonous political atmosphere we are in, the lack of consensus, and the feeling that on both sides that one side is trying to undermine the other. Therefore, that even if it's supported by a referendum, and that's not a foregone conclusion if the referendum takes place, then it may still lack the broad legitimacy that a constitution really needs in Turkey.
Okay, but don't you think that a lot of Turks would like to see the powers of the military a bit curtailed?
Definitely the Turkish public wants to see the power of the military curtailed. This did happen. I mean, the government, the AK Party government, in 2002 to 2004, passed some radical constitutional measures to reduce the power of the military. For example, they abolished the state security courts. They made the National Security Council from a state lawmaking body to a consultative body. They removed a lot of military officials from state regulatory authorities.
Don't forget, at those years, the changes were done through a consensus, and CHP and other elements, parties in the parliament voted together with the AK Party. They were not done alone by AK Party. There was a consensus there. There was no imposition. That's the difference between now and 2002-2004 period.
But Yusuf Kanli, if this package is put to the people through a referendum, isn't that a consensus of the people?
Because of the sugar coating included in the package, and because of the provisional Article 3 in the draft, that it will be put into a yes-no vote, no separate votes on the articles, most probably the nation will say yes to it, because there are lots of sugar coating sugary elements in it.
Okay, well, let's look at what impact the proposal have on the Turkish military. If implemented, officials involved in criminal gangs or coup attempts will be sent to civilian courts rather than military courts. Once perceived as a powerful, popular entity with substantial political sway, the Turkish military was almost untouchable. But that has slowly been changing, with a spate of high-profile arrests of top military officials allegedly involved in plotting to overthrow the government. The most recent was a plot known as Sledgehammer, which reportedly dates back to 2003. The plan allegedly was to stir up unrest within Turkey and provoke a war with Greece to justify a coup. But the army claims the plans were only a part of an exercise at a military seminar. Over the last 5 decades, the military has carried out 4 coups, and the current constitution that is now put in question was written after the military-led coup in 1980. Well, then let's go back to Yusuf Kanli. Now, we also have a situation here where allegedly the military can feel so powerful that it can carry out coups and really throw out anyone it wants from the government, can't it?
I don't agree with the assumption that the Turkish military can still carry out coups in Turkey. That
well,
they've tried
to.
They tried to, of course. They staged many coups. I mean, that's the history of this country. But at this international situation, at this current situation in this country, even for a military coup, there is need for public support, for international support. There is no international climate supportive of a coup. There is no domestic climate supportive of a coup. Therefore, that era is over. There might be some, sorry to say, idiotic people in the military who might aspire to see that happen, but the era is over in Turkey. And of course, I mean, now I do consider this Ergun O'Connor Sledgehammer probe continuing in the country as some sort of a thriller serial. Those who have staged coup indeed must be punished rather than assumptions.
Okay, Judith Yüksel, one of the biggest accusations against the AK Party is that it wants to diminish the power of the judiciary by appointing, let's say, political appointees in the Constitutional Court or the Supreme Court. Now, what is exactly the idea behind that? How can people who don't have a background in law be part of such a high court?
Let me, before answering this question, clarify some issues that our guest also mentioned. I want to make clear our goal. Our only goal is to ensure dignity, safety, and freedom of our citizens. So do not forget about that. And also, again, there were some mistakes by our guests saying that, you know, this assembly, Grand National Assembly, cannot make these changes, and there are some atmospheres doesn't allow these changes, because lately also, you know, some have made highly interesting remarks that cannot be reconciled with the interpretation of the constitution, such as claiming that the Turkish Grand National Assembly has no constituent power or secondary constituent power. It must be emphasized that the authority to make amendments to the constitution, for example, constituent power, belongs to the members of the parliament. So this power cannot be transferred to any other person or institution. No judicial organ, including the Constitutional Court even, can put on hold, suspend, and make condition or find incompetent the will of parliamentarians regarding proposing or voting constitutional amendments. Because, you know, in our Turkish constitution, Article 175, you need several majority. If you have 2/3 of the majority, if you pass any amendment with that majority, and it is sent to the president, and if president approves, it becomes law or amendment. If you have only 3/5 of the majority, between 3/5 to 2/3, then after president's approval, it goes to the referendum. And that is automatic, actually. That happened also in 1962 in France with de Gaulle, that, you know, there was a referendum also like that. So then, instead of asking parliamentarians or secondary constituent power, we will go to the real power, the power of people. We will ask these amendments to be approved by the people, and people will decide based on that. So the second, about the substance.
But how are you going to do that? How are you going to do that?
Reform.
I mean, you are saying that you are complying with the Venice criteria in changing the laws regarding party closures. Fine. But what about the Venice criteria regarding referendum? Article 30 of the Venice criteria says in referendum, a package must be separately voted. That is, every article must be put to vote separately. But you are holding people hostage with some sugary elements and asking them to vote yes or no on the entire package.
Okay, I'm sorry, gentlemen, we have already reached the end of the program. So thank you very much, Cüneyt Yüksel and Yusuf Kanli in Ankara, and from London, Fadi Hakura. And thank you so much for joining us here on this edition of Inside Story. We welcome your comments and suggestions. Please email them to us at insidestory@aljazeera.net. Goodbye for now.